So how's exciting to be a part of Comic-Con for this comeback year with AEW?
Well, I mean, this is obviously such a big, it's such a big deal to be a part of it, to be here. So many different kind of awesome forms of, entertainment kind of all combining. So, yeah, I mean, this is the first time I've ever been at the San Diego Comic Con. We did the New York Comic Con a couple times, but this is one of the big ones. So we should be here, and we're excited to be here.
Do you see like the correlation between like pro wrestling, superheroes, and comic books at all?
Well, I mean, absolutely, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm here with the Painmaker is because the graphic novel that we're doing, in the metaverse, the NFT blockchain graphic novel, and it's perfect because when I started doing the Painmaker in Japan, it was like if a serial killer was a pro wrestler, what would he look like? Because when I first went there and had the match with Kenny Omega, I was wearing basically what I wore in WWE. And then I realized this doesn't fit the vibe here. Japan's very, as you guys know, it's a very mystical country. And I just felt I wanted to do something more, a little bit more evil, because that was my role there, was to be kind of the modern day Bruiser, Brody, monster, heel sort of thing. So what would a monster look like if he was a wrestler? And that's where the Painmaker came from. Just for some reason, the makeup felt right, and the hat and the spiked jacket. It just was something really interesting to me. And then I thought as well too, I know this is a long answer, but it does fit what your question was. There's only so many Batman, Superman, Spider-Man movies we can make, right? They have to create a new superhero at some point. And I thought the Painmaker was perfect for both wrestling and for comic books. And with the idea in the long run of actually even doing a movie, a feature film. And that's why I still like doing the Painmaker in AEW when we have these ultra-violent barbed wire everywhere matches, or the Nick Gage death match that I had, because it fits the vibe of this character that I play. And it is a character that you play, because when you're in wrestling, you're playing a character. So it just added to the different dimensions of Chris Jericho, and I thought really lended itself to a comic book and the comic book world.
So, I'm going to talk about what's going on in AEW right now. You're in a big feud with, how does it feel why is Eddie Kingston such a great rival for you?
Well, I mean, I think the Eddie Kingston, Chris Jericho story, which was 8 months long, we started in November, was a great example of long-term storytelling that you do on the fly, kind of. We had it planned, but there was a lot of twists and turns that happened that we had to incorporate. I got a pulmonary embolism. Eddie broke his orbital bone. The Santana Ortiz thing kind of came up organically, and so we worked with that. Like, the idea was never supposed to be us feuding. We were going to end up teaming. And then as a result of these injuries and kind of reading the room, and like I always say, let the story lead you. Don't try and lead the story, because you lead it into places where it doesn't want to go. And as a result, the Jericho Appreciation Society started, and kind of combining with the Blackpool Combat Club. And Eddie Kingston is one of those guys, if you see him in a lineup, you would never pick him out to be a pro wrestler. He's not aesthetically, much like Mick Foley or Dusty Rhodes. He has that vibe to him where there's just something real about Eddie Kingston. It was a great guy to work with, and I think the idea was to build his name bigger and create some excitement along the way, which I think we did a great job of.
Jericho,
last week.
What I really respect about you, you've been in this business for over 30 years, and you are not a person who rests on your laurels. You're not content doing like the greatest hits things, and you're constantly laying golden eggs. Can you speak at all to like what inspires you to because you're not content to keep doing like idiot, you come up with I'm a wizard and you're throwing fireballs and you keep doing it
because you have
week
to.
after week.
In my mind, you have to, and this is the reason why. So 32 years into the wrestling business, which is insane when you think about it. I don't think there's anybody that's been around as long as I have that's been able to do this. But it's not something I force. It organically happens, and I'm very much influenced by David Bowie. he was always different, always changed, all the way to the end. He put out a record the day he died with a whole new character, Button Face, and it just everything was different. Aladdin Sane, Ziggy Stardust, the Thin White Duke, Let's Dance, Tin Machine, the Button Eye. Like, you never knew who David Bowie was, but it was always him. You could go to a Halloween party and go with 10 of your friends and everyone dresses up as David Bowie and each one is a different character and you would know who it was. And that's kind of the same for me. Every Halloween, I post pictures of people who dress up as Chris Jericho, and they're all different eras of Jericho. And that to me is very, very cool, because you don't, oh, that's the Painmaker, that's Lionheart, that's the, Stupid Idiot, that's the List Guy, that's the, all these different ones. And that's excites me. So I'll never rest on my laurels. I never want to be a nostalgia act. And I don't think people want that anymore. They like the changes. And I don't know when it's going to happen, but when it happens, it happens. You got to read the room. The Wizard was something, I threw the fireball at Eddie Kingston. And then on commentary, the fucking wizards, they cast spells and they throw fireballs, don't they? So yeah, I'm a wizard, whatever. Back in the 10, 15 years ago, when you said something that was getting over, people would hold up signs. They don't hold up signs anymore. You know why? Because they're too busy doing this, right? Now, how you can read the room is by Twitter and Instagram and those type of reactions and posts. And everybody was talking about the Wizard. So it's like, okay, I'll run with it. I'm a wizard. And then you have people, oh, you got to wear a wizard hat and a wizard cloak. It's like, no, you don't. That would be parody. I just use the name and call myself that and throw a fireball a couple times and suddenly it becomes a thing. And then it's another era of Chris Jericho. So all of these things kind of follow each other. Thank you. You can bring it over. Thank you so much.
Reminds me of sorcery and stunt rock.
Thank you.
Do you know sorcery?
I don't.
An old rock band from the 70s, they had a movie called Stunt Rock, where they combined magic and heavy metal.
Sounds like my type of movie. I'll have to check it out.
Do you think we could see your other characters in your Painmaker project, like the Jericho multiverse?
Well, the thing about the Painmaker is it's not Chris Jericho.
Sure.
So what the Painmaker is the backstory I created is the Painmaker is a reformed serial killer who now travels the galaxy assassinating other serial killers, intergalactic serial killers, which you could then have, a scorpion serial killer, half scorpion, an alien, a werewolf, a clown, whatever it may be from the different galaxies, but he still has the urge to kill innocent people as well. So he's an anti-hero. So it's not like Chris Jericho playing the Painmaker. The Painmaker is another entity.
Sure.
Will you see other elements of Chris Jericho in AEW? Yeah, I think we got something really cool coming up over the next couple months that will incorporate something from the past. Not that I go back to it forever, but I think that's one cool thing is you can go back and kind of give little homages to that, which is why I love whenever I say the Painmaker is coming, it always gets a pop because you don't see the Painmaker very often. And you know it's going to be pretty sick. So I like that. Like that's attached to this other kind of vibe. So
yeah, like the fans loved when you had there was a pay-per-view where you had multiple fake entrances with your
right with all the different characters. Yeah,
it was awesome.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was actually Cody Rhodes' idea.
That was
very
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
So I'd like, first of all, I want to you are my favorite superstar.
Thank you.
Like
Pro wrestler.
This is like
you can say pro wrestler
yeah,
here.
This is it's mind blowing right now. So, but you literally have multiple generations of fans. What do you think is that dynamic that draws these people to your particular
Once again, I think there's something to be said for longevity and diversity and evolution. I just went to the Rolling Stones a couple weeks ago in London. I've seen them every year for the last 10 years, and it's become a multi-generational gig. It's not just people in their 70s or 60s or 50s. There's kids there. There's tons of hot chicks. There's it's the place to be when the Stones come to town. It's a cultural event, and I'm not comparing myself to the Stones, but I think for Chris Jericho, it's the same thing with the longevity and the attachment people have with me. Some people have been with Chris Jericho for 30 years. Some have been with Chris Jericho for 30 days. And whatever floor of the elevator you got on, I'm happy to have you. And some people got off the floor. Some people want me to retire and wish I would never wrestle again, and that's fine too. That's part of it. Jericho just needs to go away already. Well, I'll be the one who says when I go away, because that's what tells me that I'm not performing up to the level that I need to be performing at. And as of right now, that hasn't happened yet. If anything, I'm performing maybe better now than I was 10 years ago. And I'm excited because of AEW. So it gives me a whole new mindset. So I think that's it, just the longevity and the fact that I'm constantly changing and giving people something to look forward to. I take great pride in that I got a lot of fans of my work who are excited to see what I'm going to do next. What's Chris Jericho going to do next? And that's exciting to me. What's Bowie going to do next? What were the Beatles going to do next when they released all these crazy records in the later half of their career? And I like that. So I think that's one of the reasons why people continue to follow me. And I think in retrospect, when I finally do leave wrestling, people look back and go, holy shit, we should have appreciated that guy a little bit better.
As a wrestler, how do you think internet and social media has transformed wrestling? Because back in the late 90s when you were in WCW, the internet was there, and there was that subset of smart marks and the internet wrestling community.
It was in its infancy though.
Yeah, it was in its infancy. But now everyone has Twitter and everyone's trying to be a smart fan.
Yeah,
kind of.
and that's
but what do you think?
That's one of the things I love.
Okay.
People angry that Eddie Kingston, lost the match, even though he beat the crap out of me and threw me in the spider web of death. And it's you guys don't know what the full story is yet. Everything leads to the next week. And when I watch a movie, I don't want to know what the end of the movie is before I see it. I want to watch it. I want to watch it unfold the way that the filmmaker wants it to unfold. I'm going through a big Godfather phase right now. I don't go to the end of The Godfather and watch the last scene and go, well, that sucks. That doesn't make any sense. Watch the whole fucking thing. Then when it's over, then you can make your judgment. I think. Here's what I think about the internet. I think its influence is overblown. I think it's overrated. And here's the reason why. I have 4.2 million followers on Instagram. When I post a photo or a video, if it gets 10,000 likes, that's a lot. Think about that. 10,000 likes is a lot out of 4.2 million. People aren't paying as much attention to it as we think. Twitter, something gets posted. If you get 100 tweets about a certain Painmaker match, Fozzy song, that's a lot. Holy shit, there's a lot. That's 100. I've got 4 million followers on Twitter. So I think its influence is overblown, and people who are obsessed with social media consider its importance to be more than it really is. So I think social media is a great way to promote your work, to read the room, but don't be obsessed with it. There's yin and yang. For the people that say you're the greatest thing ever, there's other people say go away and never come back, and you can't take it for face value either way. It's just people's opinions. That's all.
What do you think of the Jericho Appreciation Society? I've always felt 2.0 and Matt Maynard were amazingly talented, but some of the work he's done as part of the Jericho Appreciation Society and just saying sports entertainers.
It's amazing.
I can't I can't get enough of it. But just when he's talking about his wife and his wife
promos have been
begging him
amazing.
not to work those matches, I'm this guy's amazing.
Yeah. But once again, it wasn't like we ever sat down and I picked, okay, I'm going to use this guy, this guy, this guy. There was never a JAS. It happened with Eddie Kingston and Santana Ortiz, and then Brian Danielson said, I want to start my own thing to Moxley, and he said, we'll bring in Wheeler Yuta, and we'll bring in Lee Moriarty, and we'll bring in Danny Garcia, and I thought, well, that would suck for Menard and Parker if they just brought in Garcia and left those guys hanging. They should keep them together. They should keep them together and come with me, because that was the crux of the angle with Eddie Kingston. Garcia, Parker, and Menard attacked Kingston, and they attacked me. So I go to the ring not to save Eddie Kingston, but to avenge the attack, which then causes problems with Eddie Kingston. So they've been involved since day one. It'd be ridiculous not to continue this. So that's when I thought, well, Santana Ortiz are kind of gone with Kingston. Sammy's the TNT champion, so he would just leave. I'll keep Hager because he's my hand of the king. He's my heater. I'll bring these three other guys and we'll start a whole new thing. And we'll call it the Citadel. And then I told Tony Khan that he loved it all. And when I said Citadel, he didn't like it. And I had just seen some email for the New York City Art Appreciation Society. I was like, what kind of people are going to the Art Appreciation Society? Who's going, I appreciate art, so I'm going to the society. And then I thought, that's really fucking cool. Why don't we just go all out and call it the Jericho Appreciation Society? And of course, when I first said it, people hated it. The same people that said the Inner Circle is the worst name ever. It's a terrible name. You know, Jericho Appreciation, it should be called Inner Circle 2.0, you idiot. Don't you get it? I'm like, oh my God, that's so bad. You don't get it. And then suddenly we create a cool logo, and then we use the sports entertainer thing, which I've told that story before too, about how Eddie said that in Connecticut and people booed, and I thought, wow, let me see if sports entertainer is copyright written, which it wasn't. Next day it was by me, and suddenly we have a whole new thing that has legs for months and months and months. And then, you know, Inner Circle was 5. It had to stay at 5. Blackpool Combat Club and Eddie had 6. Okay, let's add 6. Let's bring in Ty. Let's do Anna Jay as well. Now we're like the fucking Stones, where there's like 15 people on stage, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be just 5. Let's make it different.
Now, I was after first of all, how are you feeling? Because after seeing that barbed wire, and
Yeah, I feel terrible. I mean, fucking
God.
broken nose and all, man. You can see.
Like, how's he gonna be here?
Yeah. I mean, you know, once again, I mean, you see those matches, and I think people watch them and go, oh, wrestling's just this, that, and the other thing. But when you watch that, I mean, you know, the barbed wire was real, and you can see that, and that's why I thought it was important to, you know, just little things like wear a shirt, because the barbed wire will stick to that shirt, and you pull back and you can see it holding on, or in my hair. I mean, you know, my nose getting broken by that chair. I mean, you know, it was obviously it's not supposed to go that way, but it does. Barbed wire bites you, ladders bite you, chairs bite you. And I think that's one thing that it's always good for people to see that. And even me getting cut out at the end, I really wanted that to be online so people can see the brutality of it. So when people are laughing, going, ah, ha, ha, wrestling is this, this, and this, and they'll be go, holy shit, that was completely insane. And the story told merited it to be insane. It was a perfect way to end this chapter of the Jericho Eddie Kingston story and move on to other things with this completely brutal over the top match. As once again, people are like, oh, can the match continue after Blood and Guts? What are they doing after Blood and Guts? They don't know what they're doing. It's like, I know what we're doing, and we're gonna have a fucking barbed wire everywhere match. We didn't even know what that was. Eddie said it, and I said, let's call it barbed wire everywhere. What is it? I don't know. Let's keep the ropes on and just put barbed wire. Let's put barbed wire on the microphone. Let's put barbed wire on the ring bell. Let's create our own match. So now AEW has barbed wire everywhere. So when you see that on the marquee, people will buy it. And we'll make play sets of it, hopefully, and continue.
What was your reaction when you found out they were doing a Corazon de Leon action figure?
Well, it's actually one of my ideas, because they were looking for the what are they called? The Luminary series of kind of guys from the past. And I just always thought that Corazon de Leon would be cool, because it was, once again, a different iteration. And it's funny because this ring jacket was made by Dr. Luther's mother in 1991. She used to be my seamstress. She lived in Okotoks, Alberta, which is where I lived. So I actually autographed it. His mom is still alive, and mailed it to her in you know, farm town Alberta, and said, you know, your jacket is now immortalized forever. So it's pretty cool. I think it's you know, I used to do this in WWE all the time. It kind of started the Bowie-like transformation. Every time I wore a new pair of tights, they'd make a new action figure for it. So let's do one for Corazon de Leon. And then the first packaging they sent me was terrible. Didn't even have a picture of the Corazon de Leon. So I had to find these old pictures, and you know, they did a great job of replicating it. So it's really cool to be able to do these types of things, you know, at this stage of my career. This is 30 years ago, man.
Non-wrestling question. Have you watched Obi-Wan Kenobi yet? Did you think it was better than Book of Boba Fett?
Yes. Well, let me rephrase that. I haven't seen Book of Boba Fett yet, but I love The Mandalorian, but I just thought Obi-Wan was better, and I'll tell you the reason why. They finally made up for the fact that in fucking Phantom Menace, they took Jar Jar Binks into Tatooine instead of Obi-Wan. They left the best character on the ship and took the most annoying character into the city. So now they finally made up for it, because I love Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. I think he's one of my all-time favorite characters in the Star Wars canon. So really glad that they did that, and hopefully they do more.
You've been for over 30 years in this business. Is there something or someone that you would like to be in the ring with that you have?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, you know, I like to, when I kind of put together my ideas for angles and stories, I like long-term stories. You know, it's obvious. I did 4 months with Orange Cassidy in the middle of a pandemic with no fucking people that culminated in a Mimosa Mayhem match. We can laugh about it now, but at the time it was perfect. It fit the story perfectly. Did a whole year with MJF. A year. 366 days that story went. Just finished 8 months with Eddie Kingston. So I like long-term stories. I'll just finish up with this. Yeah, and I also like picking guys that maybe aren't in the title hunt and giving them and me some great, you know, some great work and some great stories and some great angles. So there's a lot of guys out there. It's just what's the right timing and the right place. And I think you guys will like what we have for the next couple months at least, and then I'll go from there. We've got ideas all the way up until September, and then after that, I'll see who's available and who I want to work with, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Jericho.
Thank you, guys.
You're a living legend.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Appreciate it, Jericho.
Have a good time.
Thank you.
Got the